Here we are once again. It's I keep forgetting the day of the week. It's Tuesday. Yeah, depending on when we get to these stats, we usually try to get them before the 13th, but we're going to be a little bit late this month.
Yes.
It's all the plans for Thanksgiving that's got us tied up. But
yes, I cannot wait for turkey.
yes, it's Thanksgiving week. You have good plans? Anyway, just to get, we're going to be doing the stats now, but just to give you guys a little bit who are joining in at the moment. So the stats are basically, we're going to be covering Staten Island. We do Staten Island, New Jersey. We'll probably catch New Jersey probably beginning of next week. So we'll have Monmouth and Ocean County next week. But we have some things going on here, right, Keri? Keri has some things.
Yes, we do.
For you all, the audience, to know about what's going on in the local market so we can make a little bit more informed decisions. It's what a crazy year of wild swings in real estate. Obviously, everybody knows. For the first time in like 30 years, the interest rate went up over 8%. That's not a pleasurable experience for most people. And as definitely, I don't think we're going to see in these stats yet, but we're going to see the results of what 8% stats look like in the next 2 months. And I don't think those numbers are going to be performing at anywhere near the rate that we were at, maybe 6 months prior. So rates have taken a swipe at the real estate market. I've seen some preliminary information that, we're going to be going over some of that now.
Yes.
And, it's just, it's been an entertaining jaunt, to say the least, when it comes to stats and real estate and just the general economy. But a couple of points of note is that people's consumer confidence is way down, which is an interesting thing we touched on last week. Consumer confidence is down. Small business sentiment is down. People are just not, kind of like the weather today. They're not quite into the economics of things these days. And obviously with the cost of things, we can understand why. But we're not going to get into every little detail. We're just going to get to the numbers, the ones that you need to know most, especially if you're in the market to buy or sell. I said it earlier. I'll say it again. If you're buying or selling real estate, you're going to be doing it in the market. You're going to be paying. If you're doing it for the purpose of living in it, this is, it has to be, timing has to do with cost and the cost of doing so. So let's not try to make this a timing and when things are going to turn around and rates are going to come down. Rates come down, prices are going to shoot up. That's the bottom line here. I don't want to really tell people that rates come down. As soon as those rates come down, one thing in the economy that hasn't really taken a toll yet, although there's some indicators, is the job market. People have held on to jobs. They're not creating many more new ones, but they've held on to, it's held on, and there's people on the sidelines waiting for housing to, just the rates to move. So if those rates move, based on all the information I see, there's nothing here that's going to elevate people to say, we're going to see prices decline. I'm going to say this again, that there's some places that I think the market may decline. A lot of it surrounds that whole, and we're going to talk about this, I think, on Friday, about the Airbnb situation, which is short-term rental market.
Yeah.
This is not, so in certain markets, there can be a little bit more softness based on Airbnb short-term rentals. Disposable income is down, and Airbnbs are taking the heat. You're going to be seeing this in the news a lot. A lot of people who are on the Airbnb thing, there's a lot of investment in short-term rentals. This is this is one of the things, the cruxes with bubble markets or easy money markets, is you get these speculative bubbles. So what happened was a couple of people had the brilliant idea of buying Airbnbs for the purposes of investment, because you can make $2,000 a week, maybe in some places that more resort-like. And all it takes is, and this is the same thing like 2008. I'm not talking about on a grand scale. Two different markets. Let's get that straight. There's speculation in the market, specifically dealing with Airbnb. So, in places where it was the little bit of softness in like places like Orlando or some Florida locations, some Las Vegas locations have begun to see in the process of home prices decline, and basis on the fact that a lot of houses were bought for the purposes of short-term rentals. So we have this Airbnb situation. That's a developing thing. It's still developing because that market has softened. As COVID money has been spent out, people's thirst for going away on trips has declined, or short-term rentals are just not a thing as they were because people don't have disposable income to do so. Let's call it for what it is. It's very expensive. Airbnbs could tend to be expensive, but there was a market of people or investment in that type of rental, in those type of rental properties, and people bought for the purpose of investing. So they bought, at high numbers because of all the investors, just, sharking them out. And this market is not prone to that. So when I talk about most of like Staten Island, most of even Brooklyn, although there's some in Manhattan, obviously, where Airbnbs can be a little bit frothy. So where some problems can exist. So that will be the headline story going into 2024, where short-term, not the corner of Airbnb is the only one that does it, but short-term rentals for housing, for the purposes of not getting a hotel, they want a house. It was big in Florida, so they're definitely going to see some froth there on these types of things. So if there's anything that's going to break, it'll be in more of those markets. I don't think you're going to see that more locally. So if you guys are hoping for price, so there will be regional drops, depending on what the Fed does and what interest rates do. If interest rates, we're not getting into the stats yet because there's a lot of things. If interest rates fall, in which they have precipitously over the last week and a half, 2 weeks, interest rates have come down almost a half to almost 3/4 of a full percent. So, mortgage rates could be going down to 3.25%, 3.3%, some 3.4%. What's that? 3.4%. I think I'm in 2021.
3.4.
7.25, 7.5, 7.3. It's in that range. So it's way off of the eights, and that's a pretty significant drop. And we've seen a little bit more activity based on that. Once those interest rates drop a little bit, does that stay that way? I don't think there's a choice. So if you're asking me, one of the things the Fed would love to do is cure inflation by higher interest rates. Could they afford to do it? The answer is no. So I do expect that there'll be an accelerating market soon because unfortunately they are not going to be able to hedge inflation the way I think they want through interest rates. There's just too many systemic risks involved with doing that, specifically banking risks. I think the banking sector has little room to negotiate much higher rates for much longer time. So you're going to start seeing, I think, at least in Q2 or Q1, at the conclusion of Q1, you're going to start to see the Fed start tapering rates downward, because I do think, I've read some reports that things are a little bit shaky, especially in banks. And I just don't think they could afford to do so. Keep this going. Sorry to cut you out of this, Keri, but these are important factors that I want to get out there, because this is definitely going to play into the real estate market going into 2024. And we will be paying attention. We'll be paying attention to that. So you're going to hear about that, the Airbnb situation. We'll talk about that a little bit on Friday. And we'll lend some things to that. Who is that?
I don't know.
Oh, that's Donna. Oh, there you go. We have some guests. So, yeah. There you go. She could definitely come in and sit down for a bit. But the big thing is where rates go. So let's get into the stats.
Yes.
And see where this is going.
Okay.
All right.
So I'm going to start off with the average days on market. So they're up month over month 11.76%, basically
12%.
12%, yes. So I am wondering, like, what do you think is like causing that increase?
The increase in the pending sales?
No, the average days on market.
Oh, average days on market.
Yeah.
Well, that's obvious.
Yeah.
You know, we're not going to, the average days on market's up because interest rates are up. I'm not going to tell you that, you know, when we talk about 11% increase, it's negligible. I mean, and the one thing we're going to, I mean, you're going to give me some things on the stats. I don't think you're going to see anything that's going to be blaring out right this second, but it's going to change moving forward. I think you're going to see there's some softness here, so we're going to see how that plays out. Nothing to be concerned about.
Okay, awesome. Now this like definitely stuck out to me when reading the stats that the month's inventory is down 20% year over year. So it's at 4.19 for October 2023. 2022 it was at 5.25.
5.25.
Yeah.
That's a nothing burger. I mean, it's really not much. It's again when we talk about the stats, and you know we talk about that one time. I'm gonna put my glasses on here so we could get you know a little bit more in depth, because I think when we talk about that specific thing, you're basically looking at what the softness of interest rates is doing to the market overall. So you know the right now everything looks pretty stable as far as prices are concerned overall. So I'm not really too concerned about. So that's again, we're going to go through a bunch of numbers. A lot of them are negligible at this point. But I do move forward. We're going to see. Wait till you see what next. I'm very intrigued by next month's numbers. That's the stat report that's going to be saying. But there is
For November.
Yeah, I mean November. Doing November's in December, and then January and February. These are typically. Last year was a bloodbath. I'm going to tell you right now. Similar. Last year at this time was absolutely. Now rates went up to about 7.6% then. At the height, it was not pretty. Prices came way down fast. Are we at that point? That's the real thing to see here. What is this going to do moving forward? What is it going to do? Because once we see those numbers, the couple of numbers that we're waiting to see. I mean, it's a wait and see. But whatever it is, right now, the month's inventory is basically, it's negligible at this point.
Okay. Now, I have a question about the active listings.
Yes, this is a good one.
So, active listings are down 24% year over year. What factors do you think are contributing to the decrease in that?
First, disposable income is down. So people aren't inclined. I mean, you know, I talked about consumer sentiment earlier. Consumer sentiment being what it is not at a high point. So what's going to happen is, as people become weary with just the economic uncertainty, people aren't inclined they're inclined to be less mobile. They just tend to stay put more than. There's a bit of fear and anxiety in the market. So what happens is most people kind of hold steady. So, but the 24% decrease in active listings, if all factors were considered here, I would say that's the thing that continues from the buyer side, then look, it's not going to be. There isn't as much flexibility in there, and I think you're going to do something on the list to sell ratio, which is it's so negligible. It's just there's not any room for like things to fall where they think they will fall. Where here's where the things will fall, and this is being from experience in real estate markets of 2008 till now, is where things will fall is in places that would have some subjectivity to their value, which is like, is it close to a main road? Are there some other factors that may weigh on value a little bit more because this is a low volume market? Low volume markets tend to. So if there are other factors, the prices will come down. There'll be a little bit more room in the negotiation because the way the valuation modeling works when it's hot market versus a cold market is locational based factors being primarily responsible will drift much more dramatically when the market shifts like this. Because this is, if everything was all things being equal, we were having the number of sales. There's one number that'll stick out in a little bit, which is really interesting. But in markets like this, there's not going to be the type of flexibility that's associated with negotiating prices, just on the fact that there's just so little available at the given moment.
Yeah.
And as a home buyer, most people know that when they call, I'm going to tell you this off the bat. If you like the house at the price in this market, chances are you're still in multiple bid situations. We've seen it. I've seen it happen on a few things. It's like it could be for a lot of homeowners, depending on locational based factors. This is a tale of two cities, and you could hear completely different stories from one from another. And a lot of people who are going on the market says, "Oh well, I know somebody who got 60 offers, and this house didn't get any offers." Why is that? Because these characteristics in what I call this low volume market will show themselves a lot more. So it's important to understand that when you're doing valuations of homes, that the consideration on location, if there's other variables, they're going to be weighted more. They're going to be weighted more in a market like this than in the past 2, 3, 4 years.
So also the pending sales are up 22.3% year over year.
That's the standout number in this report.
Yeah.
Pending sales up 22%.
Yes.
So that's pretty significant. It's notable. What brings that is there was a period of time, we call them blips in the market, like the rates will pop for a couple of weeks. I mean, they'll pop down, and we had a couple of those little spurts just before, so the contracts that you have now, a lot of those pendings are going to be pendings that are still pending from the early part of this. So we're already in November, and in New York, it takes about 3 months to close on a house on average.
Yeah.
Some people are going to say 2. I'm going to tell you based on it's usually 3, and in some cases even longer, but they average about 3 months. So the spurt rates were really down, and I think there was, when the Fed began to say that the increases were coming, there was a little bit of spurt to kind of get in and lock themselves in, and then that would be, you get they'd be packed into the those first few months of September, trailing maybe mid-August. That's where you're seeing a lot of the numbers come in, because rates were coming up, so people they rushed to get into a house and get the lowest rate possible at the time, and they had gone up significantly since end of July till now. It's been on the upward trend. So that's that's where I think that number comes. But it's an interesting number. What it shows you, and this is what I tell sellers, what it shows you is the speed of which the market responds now in real estate is faster than any point in history. Usually, real estate was like a slower process of like falls and like a fall in real estate prices or an increase in real estate prices because of the way we use data and how fast things are delivered to people. The volatility or the price swings in real estate are more dramatic now than I think at any point that I've been doing real estate. So you're going to see, like, you could see a pretty drastic swing in prices maybe from week to week. So literally 1 week could drive a number, sometimes 4 or 5% in the other direction. Rates go down 0.5% and go like to like we get back to like maybe like 6.9. You're gonna have there's people waiting, and it's like, and that's the problem. Time brings more pent up demand if there's no other factors involved. What are those factors moving forward? That remains to be seen. Your hair looks great, Keri, I promise.
I'm sorry. I'm trying.
She has a thing. We're gonna have a end of year. No, I'm more kidding.
No, that would be.
She
funny.
changed her hair to black. Didn't you notice?
Yes.
We're very chic here at Prodigy Real Estate. I keep up with the latest trends in fashion and hair and a lot of those things. It's fun working with on a full-time basis with these two ladies. They make an entertaining discussions around all the things that you want to know about fashion and hair.
Oh yeah, we're always complimenting each other.
They're always complimenting each other.
Yeah.
I'm like the sideline judge.
Yeah. That's so funny.
Well, for the most part, I keep quiet. For the most part.
Oh yeah.
Until my subtle digs come across. Anyway.
Oh boy.
I want to lose my glasses.
No.
So what's next on that?
Next
Get me out of this.
Is the sold medium sale being down 5.
1.5%.
Yeah. I want to know, how do you feel about that?
There's no doubt about it. These next two reports, and I think the third, in the next 3 months, prices will come down where I saw them last year. So prices came down on Staten Island last year at its height in February. I believe we were talking about between about 5%, 4%. So when the mortgage rates came up, 5% was the difference in prices. So at its worst in February, we actually recorded about a 5% drop in prices. So, and that was based on about a 7.5, 7.6% interest rate at the height. And you could but there's definitely a dampening effect. There is no doubt in my head right now. There is rates have made their presence known. There's no doubt about it. So, let's not soft pedal this. Rates is having to qualify for a loan for what most people list their price for. You're talking about maybe I think in the last report maybe like 5% of the population could even consider qualifying for a lot of things we have for sale. So unless they've using typical down payment formulas, but I'd say that. But I do think I'm going to tell you this off the bat that the rates are going to come down. We did a live, I think I said the last one, and they were talking about rate increase. I told them this is the end. I knew in September, you could see what they were doing to the economic situation, and the heads up there know what's going on. They're not going to, they kind of they're pushing these crazy GDPs. They said the GDP grows at 4%, but they didn't raise rates. I'm like, there's some kind of something else going on here. But I don't think when you talk about rates that you basically, this is the height. So whatever happens from here on out, there may be a couple of jumps here and there, maybe toward December, but where you're going to see rates come down. So if anybody's kind of like where the holiday shopping season's here, and when those reports come out, based on everything that I know and I see, you are going to see some serious pullback on spending. Consumer spending is going to drop precipitously. So anybody who's not expecting that is silly. I mean, it's wildly known that right now, retail sector is you have to expect it. With rates being 8%, people a credit card. So so much. So what was fueling inflation? A lot of what was going on was that people were spending on their credit cards still, it's like now they're at the tail end of credit limits. Like you've got people paying 27% interest, 27% to 30% interest on a credit card. The thing is that, but here's where the problem lies. This is the canary in the coal mine situation. Banks cannot afford to have defaults hit 4%. And this is where the Fed is going to have to pivot from. Because if credit card debt starts defaulting, liquidity situations at the banks have been at the center of it since March, have been in the center of the news cycles, because a couple of banks, SVB Bank, all these places. And liquidity, they can't, when loans default, liquidity becomes the issue. And that's where the Fed is not going to be able to do what they want with interest rates. Because if loan defaults start increasing, it'll end up in another bailout, because the banks will not be able to, they can't really afford to have defaults go up. Maybe if defaults head up maybe another 1.5% to 2% on just credit cards, you're going to have some issues. There's some cracks there, and I think that this is where the whole inflation question really gets a little dicey. So I do think that if this is what I'm watching closely, is I'm watching that credit card defaults are up for the 4th straight month. Okay, so they're coming up, they're creeping up little by little by little. It was like up to 2.7, not horrible, and mortgages haven't been affected, so the mortgage market looks pretty solid right now. So there's not many defaults there. But I always look for the first sign. The first sign that people will choose to pay and not pay is credit cards. So I always look at that. That's the first domino in the dominoes. So in the row. So it's like, if that tips, then you look at the car loans, and then you look at mortgages. So where we are with that is, but credit card debt is at a historic high of over $1 trillion, and has ballooned in just this past quarter, ballooned tremendously. So where the economics of scale take place, you're going to look at where's consumer spending going to be, because it was on credit cards, and now that's not an available resource to be using. And if it does, so what do you think? So as soon as those reports start coming out in December, which we're really paying attention to, we're going to see where that leans toward, because consumer spending has led the rise in inflation by an enormous amount. $1 trillion credit card debt, which is, So goodness gracious.
That is crazy.
All those debt consolidations and all that stuff. But it's a whole other story. I mean, some people refinance to pay off credit card debt, which is nuts. But I shouldn't say that, because mortgage people will scream at me for saying that. But it's actually I think it's better to default on credit cards than put it on a mortgage. But I mean, interesting. They put their house. It's like, how do you say, you sit on your debt versus keeping it outside the house. But Keri likes to say no a lot when she's. That's
no.
I caught her. But anyway, you can go to the next one.
Next is
We'll get you off the hook.
the sale to list price ratio. It October 2023, it's at 97.5. So it's down 0.3% month over month. Like, how do you think the sale to price ratios are affecting buyers?
They're not.
No?
That point, it's so negligible. There is no real, when we talk about it, what's the total right now, list to sale price ratio is 97.5.
Yeah.
Get that, what, 2.5%? 2.5%, right? Mm-hmm. Decrease.
Yeah.
2.5%. That's been relatively the number that's been static throughout. You go to New Jersey, it's still, a lot of places are still over 100. And that's what I mean.
Wow.
The funny thing is New Jersey is kind of funny. That's where you see it's one of those transitional markets. We did like an infographic on how markets swing. Mm-hmm. You can get some substantial price swings in some of these New Jersey communities. Depending on a lot of factors. I can't get into each one of them, but there's a considerable amount. But right now, there's nothing here. There's nothing here on the list. There's nothing on the sell to list price ratio that says prices are coming down at all. There's nothing really in this. The one surprise in this report is the pending sales being up 22%. For the month, that's for the month or for the year?
Year over year.
Yeah, because there was a frenzy. The first 2.5 quarters of 2023 were ripping. Don't kid yourself; they were really good. And that was because the sticker shock of the rates from October of that year, similar to now, wore off and rates went down below 6. At one time, it was like 5.99. And that's what I mean about sellers. Sellers who are out there and they're thinking about it usually wait till, the street tells you, it's like, oh yeah, well, things are coming up again, and usually it's the tail end. So if you're going on the market, it's very important to know that the preparation is, if you're going to make the leap, I would be aware of the fact that if rates change, so people say, oh, it's not a good time to sell. I think that's crazy. I don't think there's I think there's more room and more flexibility in this market, especially if you move into parts of New Jersey, than any other point. I know those chairs are just so fun to sit on. They're just so fun. We're going to get new chairs soon.
Yeah, for Christmas?
Yeah, that'll be a Christmas gift. A fresh new chair.
Like a couch.
Yeah. No. That ain't going to happen. But, no, you got a chair.
All right.
You're going to be sitting up right here. So, anyway.
I guess I just want to know what your input will be.
For the future?
Yeah.
Well, my input for the future is this is going to be one entertaining year. Let's call it for that. There'll be some things that there's doing this for as many years, 18 years now, this is one of the wildest economic situations. And, that's the thing is I try to use principled economic advice about how markets move and things like that. And, it's like no need to apply here because things just don't make sense. No. I can't say that, when it's like the markets they don't. And why and how is because, it's like when you put a lot of artificial stimulus in and there's a lot of unnatural factors in the market, markets don't behave naturally. And that's really what you're seeing here. So the market's not behaving naturally. It's like, and I hate to say this going back to COVID, when COVID came and it's like shutting off the heart shutting off the heart to from a patient, like and shutting the heart off, waiting a month to revive them, and then putting them, reviving them back to health again. And when that little pause happened there, it's like usually like to do that. And the economy works similar to a human body in a lot of ways. So I mean, there's a lot of correlations. So when you shut it off and turn it back on like that, don't expect all the organs to function normally when they turn back on.
Yeah.
And that's really what happened here. So when it's like when does the artificial stuff like settle out? The problem is, I mean, the biggest thing forward is how to mitigate inflation. And I'm going to say it here, it won't be mitigated. They will not be able to mitigate inflation.
You don't think so?
No. I think that it's too precarious. The banks are going to scream soon, if they're not screaming already, to lobby for lower rates because you can't afford defaults. And, you start putting people out of work, you start putting things, and like you start going down that path, and banks don't have liquid capital on hand to cover the loans. You're going to have there's going to be issues with that. I mean, and that's going to be, oh goodness, and it's an election cycle. It's going to be nuts. Get your helmet. Because there's going to be crazy times. There's no doubt about it. It's going to be a strange year. So whoever's out there watching, it's going to be a strange year. It should not, but all markets, and no matter what you're doing it in, I think you're going to be like, the financial situation most people face, I think in that sense, is going to be pretty stable. But I do think that buyers who are waiting on the fence are going to find out that when those rates decrease, it doesn't mean that the prices are going to still go up. There's too much. I'm telling you, there's so many people in the demand. We get a lot of calls for like people who are on the fence, and it's just like waiting to happen. And really, it is rates. And then it's like, I don't think prices could, even with the rates coming down, prices could accelerate a little bit, but that's where the problem with inflation is beginning. The housing market has, is not really any more reflective, and this is why when they say, the housing market's kind of like bubbled, it really hasn't. I mean, like I said, it's all things being equal. If your milk or your sugar or whatever it is, your anything that you buy at a grocery store goes up 30%, housing is no different. I think too many people are like, house prices. No, it's really not. It's the same problem you have at the grocery store.
Yeah.
House prices are up for the same reason why your milk is up. It's inflation, and that's really so. Like people are thinking, I'm gaining value, and like they look at value as numbers, and it's really not. So it's not like people just assuming, and that's why it's like when people say it's a good time to sell or buy, it's like it's all things being equal, it's all relative, and I think most people make the mistake of thinking they're going to score like it's like they think they could time it, which is not going to happen. It's like. The one thing that's held true throughout my time in real estate, even in 2008, was as home buyers back down, and I dealt with a lot of them, they're all in better situations, even when everybody said it wasn't a good time to buy. So they all lived their life. Matter of fact, I just sold somebody who was in their house. It's like from 18 years. It was a person I bought from before, and now comes into she's like a cat in the window, when like someone turns their head really quick, like a cat, like they see something outside, and it's like
it's raining.
Yeah.
Oh no.
So it's raining. There you go. You go to the weather forecast. We got the cat at the window letting us know it's going to rain. But anyway, that's where I think the future is right now. The future is in the next 2 months we're going to really see things play out. I think it's going to be, I think you're going to get a decent spring. I think you're going to see activity increase. Yeah, I mean, it's not, I don't think it's going to make everybody happy, because what's going to happen is that it's going to be a bounce back and forth between interest rates, and like it's going to be like, how do you say, it's going to be a duel. So for the first time in a while, you're going to see something called like selective rate increases. So it's going to go like this. So you're going to see blips in the market that are going to go. So what's going to happen as the market tails off? Let's just say it really picks up again, and you know, the housing market's going to definitely correlate with inflation. As soon as that inflation number, then they'll drop the rates and then they'll put them back up again, and then they'll drop the rates. And they're going to try to they're going to do all sorts of tricks with this, try to keep it, play with the market enough to keep it under control. The Fed doesn't necessarily dictate that in terms of its federal fund rate, which is, you know, the rate that people always think that mortgages move off of. Yes, there's definitely correlations, but based off the 10-year treasuries. And 10-year treasuries, I mean, Warren Buffett's buying treasuries. So I'm assuming there's a market. There's a market for treasuries, and there's going to be rate decreases because that's usually what you're looking for. You're looking for purchases of treasuries. There's a sell-off of treasuries, and now there's people buying them back. So it's an interesting time. That's all I can say. It's really interesting times. Pay attention and make sure, like, you know, if you're going to navigate the process, there is. We did a little quote, and I said it the best. We need to stop the conversation on whether it's a good time to buy or sell, and start looking at fundamentals and say, could you afford it or not? And is your situation stable enough to continue? This good time, bad time, good time, like it's and there's such wilding variations between people's financial situations and their ability to do something. Like, if you told me, like, you know, someone who bought in like 2006, and they're like, I remember someone says, oh, it was a terrible time to buy in 2008. Wait, things going to come down further. Wait. Oh, well, geez, no, we didn't wait long enough. It's like now prices are going up, and then they wind up bidding higher. There's people try to time this out. And it just, look, at the end of the day, it pans out at the end no matter what. There is not anybody, at least since I've been doing this, real estate has been and still becomes, you're only going to get downward trends that only last for a very small period. So you go through history, you may get a span of 3 years where it's like if things do come down, and that's usually, you'll outlive the usefulness. The usefulness of the house will take over. So you're still going to gain equity position regardless of whether it's up, because you're living in the house. Think of the utility value, because if you're going to rent, I'm sorry, you're going to rent subject to change. And I think if things rate-wise turn around, those rents are going to go up again, because I don't think that they're going to raise rates again. I don't see it. Not as a short term, not in the short term. It may happen again down the road, but after it drops. So they're going to play this little swing game back and forth. You'll see the rates maybe go down to 4.75. So they're going to see the real estate markets heating up again. They're going to raise it back up to 5.25. They're going to drop it, raise it, drop it, raise it. So you're going to see this flip flop back and forth more than you're going to see. It's going to stay here. It's going to stay sticky. It can't afford to stay sticky. I can't tell you this. They can't keep. I mean, the inflation's sticky, rates are sticky, but the problem is they can't really get inflation under control to the degree that they're going to want to. So, and banks can't afford to keep it that way because they don't hold enough reserves right now. So this is something that'll develop. We'll watch all those stuff and see what happens. But I think that the spring market is set up for a rate decrease, and once that rate decreases 0.25%, the prices are going to go up. Prices are going to go up. Costs may come down. So it's like, for sellers that are out there, I think it'll time yourself right into the market, and that's usually what happens. People will see you like, okay, we get these cycles where like a house will sit there when the rate's around, this cycle 8%, not much movement. Rates drop down to 7, and all of a sudden there's 5, 10, 15 buyers that come out of the woodwork, and they're just moving on rates. So timing this out is very difficult to do. And if the plan is to do something, just think about your personal finances and think about whether it makes sense for you, unless you're an investor. And if you're an investor, then you could speculate a lot more about where things are heading. But most people will not see a negligible gain or loss in terms of long-term prospects of owning a home. It's never historically happened. So we're talking about, time. And sorry for making you struggle in that chair. It's not easy.
It's
Yeah.
uncomfortable today.
God, we need background music. But anyway, that's all we have for today. And we'll be back Friday after a Thanksgiving break. And happy Thanksgiving, everyone. If you haven't said it earlier. Yes. Happy Thanksgiving, Keri. You have plans?
Thanksgiving. All my family's coming to my house.
Oh, I didn't know you owned a house.
Well,
I'm kidding.
my parents' house.
There you go. But so the big thing moving forward is I hope everybody has a wonderful Thanksgiving and good holiday season, and watch those credit cards. Okay, don't overspend. That's my word of the day. Don't overspend on too many excessive gifts.
No.
So
Nope.
that's it. It's definitely the dollar store for handbags.
Dollar store.
Yes. Look at that. I gotta go to Chinatown.
I might have to take a trip.
I gotta get what do they call them? They changed the G to an R like the Rucci.
Oh, yeah. You wouldn't know though. Some
You
people
never
wouldn't
know. Sometimes you want those Rucci bags.
Yeah. I have a couple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like an R, but it's like they make it like it looks like a G, and then it's like
Yeah.